Hi guys, I'm Carly with artificialplantsandtrees.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful February wreath. Hey guys, today we're going to work on our February wreath of the month. My birthday happens to be in February, and I am partial to the amethyst, which is the birthstone for this month. And because of that, I went to my local floral store and I chose flowers that were in shades of purple. I really loved how big and full these were, and I liked that there was a little bit of pink, a little bit of lavender. And when I got home, I happened to find in my stash of ribbon this great ombre ribbon that has a little bit of sparkle, and it fades from a dark purple to a nice cream color. We're going to use these together to create a great wreath. The wreath itself is a twig wreath that I got at Hobby Lobby for $4.99, and the flowers I got at Michael's for $8 a stem, and I got 2 stems of them to complete this project. I already had this ribbon in my stockpile, but if you were to buy this new, it would probably cost you about $5 a spool. This is 1.5 inch wide ribbon, and I have about 1.25 yards of it for the project today. All right, let's get started. We're going to start this project by making a really nice full bow. Because this is a narrow ribbon, we are going to make a lot of loops. We're going to start by taking one length and kind of placing how long we're going to want our tails of this bow to be, and then just snipping that off from the base, and we can trim that up better later. We're going to put that aside. Now we're going to make the bow itself. Unroll some of your ribbon from your spool and start by holding one tail of the ribbon in your hands and loop it back over to itself, and then loop it the opposite direction, making sure that from your thumb and your forefinger to either loop is about the same distance. Continue doing that, and I just make each set of loops a hair shorter than the loops that were before them. Because my ribbon is the same on both the front and the back, I can just go ahead and flip it over and pull it back in. If your ribbon were one-sided, you would have to twist it once in the center to make sure that the right side was always showing. I'm doing this bow kind of quickly, but if you wanted to see a more in-depth version of how to do this type of bow, I do have a YouTube video up that you can watch that shows you step by step how to make a big bow like this. Once you get down to the center and you've made each one a little bit smaller than the one before, go ahead and do a final loop in the center like that, and then just judge where it ends and cut it off from the spool. Then tuck that end inside the bow. Take a second to straighten things out a little bit, and then pass a wire through the middle of that bow. Pull it to the back, and as you're doing this, try to pull everything kind of as tight as you can and give it all a good twist. And leave those ends of your floral wire long because we're going to do one more thing with them. Now that this bow has a lot of loops, it's time to fluff the whole thing up. We're going to start by taking our loops on either side and pulling one to the right and one to the left, one to the right and one to the left, the whole way up. And if you have your floral wire nice and tight, it won't matter if you tug a bit because it's all pretty secure at this point. Once you have things going different directions a little bit, go ahead and get your fingers in there and fluff them up and make each one loop a little bit more. I'm going to finish this one up and then I'm going to show you how to add it to the wreath. Alright, I went ahead and I fluffed up my bow a bit, and we're going to tweak it a little bit more after it's on the wreath, but I'm going to show you how to add the tails to it. Earlier we cut this one length to add the tails to our bow. We're going to turn our bow over, and where we still have our wires, we're simply going to place this in the center to where you have equal length on both sides. Take that same wire that you already twisted once for the bow itself and just give it another couple twists to attach the tails. And then we're going to bring our wreath back in, place this whole bow at the center bottom of our wreath, and go ahead and twist that wire shut one more time. And then once we do that, we can go ahead and fluff, and we'll be ready for the next step of our project. When I purchased these flowers from the store, they came all together on one plastic stem, but I need them to be individual like this so that I can put them in my wreath. So we're going to go ahead and trim them down a bit. I'm just going to go beneath the foliage, beneath the leaf a little bit, and then just snap them off. And because I'm a little bit OCD, I go ahead and put them in piles according to colors so that in the next step, I have everything right at hand where I need it. I'm going to trim off the rest of these, and then we'll be ready for our next step. Alright, I've trimmed up all of my flowers, and I have divided them into the two colors. I also divided each of those two colors in half and put one pile to my right and one pile to my left, because I'm going to work these flowers up both sides of this wreath, and I want to make sure that's pretty even. So now I know exactly what I have to work with on both sides. I'm going to start close to my bow and just work these stems right into the space in between the twigs. And you might have to play around with this a couple times to find a nice opening in there to work with. And I'm going to kind of alternate back and forth between my pink color and my purple color. And then once I have a pink here and a purple here, the next pink I'm going to do is beside that purple, just so I get nice back and forth motion and plenty of interest there. And this doesn't have to be perfect the first time you do it. When we're all said and done, we can go back, and if anything seems out of place, we can go ahead and rearrange it then a little bit. And you can also decide how densely you want these together or how far apart you want to space them. And that's all personal preference. I want to do somewhat of a mirror image of what I did on this side on the other side. So I'm just going to kind of be referring back to this side as I'm placing these. And now we're going to trim the edges of our bow, or the tails of our bow. I'm going to go ahead and pull this down so you can see exactly what I'm doing. All right. Determine how long you want the tails to be, and then fold your bow in half like this. You want both of the wires to be together and a fold here. Then from the fold up to the wire, cut at an angle. And when you're done, you'll have a nice pointed bow that's completely even. Go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. And our wreath is ready for our door. Once I placed my wreath on the door, I went ahead and made sure everything was sitting even, everything looked good, and now I'm ready to enjoy this wreath throughout the month of February and for the rest of spring.